Hello Cumberland, happy African Heritage Month. I'm Stephanie Kylehack with the Municipality of Cumberland. We're here today with Mr. Dean Ruddick, son of Mr. Maurice Ruddick, also known as the Singing Miner. If you've been following our posts throughout February for African Heritage Month, you'll know that Maurice Ruddick was stuck with 6 others after the Springhill No. 2 mine explosion for 8.5 days. Mr. Ruddick, what do you remember about the bump as a child?
Well, at the time I was 7 years old, so like a lot of my memory will be scarce for it, but I do remember at the night of the bump that there was a bump, and I'm thinking we were upstairs. We were probably upstairs and maybe even bedtime by that time, and I do remember, of course, it was loud, it was shaking, and I do remember coming downstairs to see what was going on, and Mom was upset, very concerned, and because I guess they realized at that point what had happened, or figured out pretty well what had happened. So we just kind of milled around a little bit, and then when she did find out, she sat down and told us. She said, "Yeah, your dad's trapped in the mine. He's not going to be home for a while, but he'll be home. It's just going to take a little while to get him home."
So I have another question, but I have a preamble as well. So in the next question, I'm thinking of a couple of your father's traits and the experiences and what they mean. So he had a positive outlook, we know, and he also had a near-death experience. He was tough enough to survive the bump, but also gentle enough to coach his fellow miners through it with their spirits intact. There are several women who are reported saying that their sons or their husbands wouldn't be alive without Maurice's spirit to keep them through it. So he probably still had a lot of positivity to go around afterwards, despite everything, including segregation on his trip to Georgia. So what I'm trying to say is that his character probably produced many, 13, resilient and well-adjusted kids. However, I'm also wondering if his legacy put a lot of pressure on you all. Did you or your siblings or other family members ever feel like you couldn't fully express yourself, or a negative emotion or an experience or racism or something like that?
No, I don't think any of us ever did. I certainly didn't at all. And we had experienced some over the years. It's grown up later in your teens, because as a kid, we didn't get much further than the top of this road. We didn't get to roam all around the neighborhood and go to town. We would go that way, which was just beautiful woods and on the old railway tracks and that. We spent most of our time down there. Just being kids, go play in the woods and do little things and that. But I don't think any of us ever felt that we couldn't express ourselves. And our both mom and dad both made it very clear, if you have any problems, you come home and let us know. And we can work things out or get things resolved yourself. And Mom would be just a little bit more aggressive than Dad would. Trust me, she'd be pretty sassy. If you went over and told her something, the hair would be right up on her head, and she'd be pretty excited. And Dad would be kind of more, way back now, don't be telling those boys that and this and that, that's just be calm and work it out. Which was good for us because it taught us to be that way. I mean, there was times that you couldn't, because it became physical and stuff, and so you had to deal with that as a kid. But we did, and there was stuff going on, not a lot. The town overall, in my mind, was a good town. It was a good town, and our school was right here. That's where we went to school from 1 to 6.
Okay.
And then 7 to 9 we were up where the high school is now.
Yeah.
Up in there. I don't recall ever having any problem with any of the kids over here. We all played together. We all had minors. They were all minors or ex-minors and stuff. So I don't recall anything. Here it was in later years when I got to the junior high and high school that problems arose, and there was a very limited number of people. And it's funny because I look back and I can remember every name. And I don't hold that against people, not at all. Because if I hold it against people, it's only going to wear me down. So I just let it go. It's just thing at a time. It's the past stuff that happened, and a lot of those people I've not become like real friends with, but we talked with them and they'd be sociable and get along. It wasn't that they held it forever. It seemed like there was a transition that they were going through, that they would be coming, and there was different times over the years and through the years that there would be, we had a lot of good, white friends and black both, and our white friends were very, very supportive. They were excellent people, and I still have those friends, and we were able to, I guess, pick up some others along the way, ones that would make comments a few years ago, and now all of a sudden aren't making comments. So stop and talk to you, say hi to you on the way by. So I don't know, it's just one of those things that went through or not, you know. Had a few punches and stuff over the years in and out, but you know, it all made,
Kind of would consider it a part of a normal childhood.
and it was, like to us, we didn't know any better, you know, that was normal.
Yeah.
Okay, there was people that would say things and do things and challenge you and stuff, and we just had to deal with it. And a lot of time we didn't go home to mom and dad, because they'd be more excited to get upset and stuff, you know. We come home with a bloody nose, might have had to explain why, but in general, no. And I think we all pretty well felt the same, you know. For the guys end of it anyway, like, it was more a lot of the time physical stuff, but we got through it, you know. And I don't hold it against anybody, and I always said, you know, never hold a grudge, because that grudge will eat you up faster than it will eat them up, because they really don't care. You know,
That's true.
yeah, so I try to make peace, bonds with everybody over the years. I always have, and as I got older, it was much easier because people just weren't that way, and it was only a certain group of people that were that way. I found it very limited. There were some, but it was there. It definitely was there, and overall the town in my mind was good. They accepted,
And that's what stands out to you, is that many people were good to you.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I went to a lot of our white friends' homes, went to their homes, and never had a question, never had any, nobody ever looked at you as if like, what are you doing here? You're always welcome into the home. Only one incident that I do recall, and it's funny because we're all teenagers hanging around, and one of our group, kind of a group, but we was having a birthday party, and of course we're all invited. They all got invited. So he calls me aside. He says, look, and I remember it was clear as day, and I was totally shocked, but it was what it was. And he said, you know, I'm having a birthday party here. I said, well, all the guys are coming. He said, but Mama has a problem with you coming. And he said, I tried to tell her. He said, what kid? He said, nice kid. She's practical. She said, but she got it in her mind that all black people are bad and they'll steal and fight and stuff. He said, I'm trying to convince her that that's not it. And that's not the way it is. So over time, it wasn't too long, that I was able to go to that house, and I felt comfortable.
And you probably grew up with hymns, given your father's fondness for music. As a child, did their meaning deepen for you after the bump?
I have to say, yeah, because Dad was always singing. If he had a few minutes, more so in the evening, he'd get out his 4-string guitar, and he'd sing, and he'd sing a lot of hymns, and you know, he had a lot of faith. And understandably so after the bump, his faith was strengthened, and you know, and probably that's where we get a lot of ours. Yeah, definitely, and through church and that, and
there are a lot of accounts of your mother saying that she had a lot of faith in God, that she wouldn't be left alone with 12 children.
Yeah, and that would be a big prayer for her, and hoping he'd get home so he could continue. Yeah, and she did. She had a lot of faith, and she always said, "He'll be home. He'll be home."
What did he do after the bump, and what were your roles as children to help extra, since he didn't go back to work in the mine?
Yeah, he of course, like I say, the mine was closed, but he done odds and ends, whatever he could work at. I know he took a drafting course down at the community center. He worked out the penitentiary and all that stuff. I heard when it was being built on the Hare Road end. Yeah, and they used to have what they called miners' grants. And any of the miners, the town would kind of be like a makeshift thing. They would maybe come to your house and cut up your wood or put up your bank in or help you do things around the house. And that was usually a yearly thing. And he would work at that, do all kind of different sorts of things. And as kids, as we got growing up, we used to have to, like I say, bring the coal into the house. We would have to cut kiln wood to get the coal stove going, because when you went to bed, it went to bed with you. We didn't have a furnace. There was no furnace. It was just a big warm morning. And we would do that. We used to pick coal, and that's just down beyond where Denny's is there. Just down in there. We used to go down there, we'd pick coal, and a lot of time, almost every day. Rainy days we didn't. He did. The girls did. They would come over and pick coal too, because couldn't afford to buy it at the time. So we used to do that, and he was always of the opinion, if you don't, you get working, and you're making money, yeah, I still got to pay the bills. So he always felt that you should contribute something. Yeah. And we would use that money a lot of time just for school clothes, like scooping berries. We would scoop it all hard to just money so we could buy clothes and have new things, because the things were pretty scarce back then. Yeah. In a lot of the community, like we would get things given to us, like bags of clothes, and the people that lived right next door there, they were wonderful people, and they had a son, and he was close to my age, and if they got stuff and it didn't fit, they would bring it down home. And some of the stuff was new to us. It was like, wow. Because things were tough. We didn't have a lot. Like, you could only imagine when the bump shut down. I think, if I recall Mom saying, they got $27 a month for the family. And so things were pretty tough. So you couldn't afford to buy a whole lot of stuff, get a whole lot of things. But, we survived. We never went hungry. Every meal, there was a meal on the table. Yeah, you always didn't really care for it, but didn't have a choice. You did it anyway. Eat it because there's nothing else. That's it. Yeah. And so we ate well. Dad used to take us fishing, take us hunting. Yeah. We'd catch a lot of fish. We'd fish, trout. We caught a lot of brook trout. We'd be just out there, and I don't know if there was a limit, but I don't think he cared about the limit at that point.
Off the record. Did the girls fish too?
They had, but I don't recall, but I know they had at one time. They went fishing, and you almost lost them. You got lost somewhere, because we would walk a mile, 2 miles up through the woods, and then fish down the brook, back down, and then walk over and get to the car to take us there. Okay. Yeah, I remember the girls saying that at one time. They kind of got lost, but girls probably weren't that interested in fishing anyway.
They got lost on purpose, maybe.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. So it was a good life, even though you didn't have anything. You still had your family, you had the support, and I don't look back. I often wonder, what if the whole world had been brought up like that? Maybe changing it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.